services are being shut down, and as you're shutting them down, whether a 5-minute gap or not, at least inform the end user, because most weren't aware.
No, they weren't. Whether
They
actually
got caught by surprise, but you suddenly, initial reaction is that yes, the networks are overloaded, it's Chandra, everyone's wishing, and that's generally the trend. Chandra is the busiest night on earth for the mobile operators. So that's when networks go down. So people first thought it was that until that message, and then crept the panic. That just spread.
First it was in Punjab.
Exactly.
On the request of the chief minister, they said, right?
Yeah.
Karachi was not supposed to.
No.
Then it was Karachi.
So then send it out. Just put that message. The operators broadcast messages all day long for various campaigns and programs. Just broadcast one message. For security reasons, the networks are being shut down. You will not have service till further notice. You get that from when they have a breakdown in the system. So that could have also been a way of kind of putting the message out there to the right people, because the people weren't aware. They're in the shopping malls and suddenly their phones are there and you're not too sure what's happened. And that's where, and again, even take key stakeholders on board, ambulance services, hospitals, emergency. There are cases reported, and I was reading somewhere online where some doctors on call did not get the message in time.
They're all using mobile.
Yes.
Actually, no. Now people, we don't even have landline numbers.
You don't need one because you're constantly.
It's become such a problem. We wanted to call our technicians to respond to, vehicles being jammed on the road or something like that. And we just couldn't get them, because they all had mobile phones. So we couldn't, we were working the whole night of it, trying to activate as many vehicles as we could, Some of them got shut down and all that. And, but again, I hope that the government doesn't ignore this idea of, informing an hour or 2 hours earlier before shutting down. They should not shut down. The whole concept is that there's enough time to sit down and do some brainstorming. We are also sending our suggestions and all that of how the systems can keep working and security can be enhanced. But they really need to have a solution on who should be the owner of a SIM. And I think the mobile companies also duty bound in following. Last 5 years, we have been checking our SIMs on our IDs, we have been re-verifying them, and yet they say, it's shocking. I mean, it doesn't take 16, 17 years to straighten out the system. All right. I could understand, but they have gone through this exercise umpteen times, yet people like you and me can't get an unidentified SIM, whereas they're available in abundance in the market. You see, they're sold on the road, they're sold on pawn shops. Okay, so I mean, it really doesn't work. And I think they really need to duplicate the system which is sold by credit cards, or the SIM the way it is sold anywhere else in the world.
But you got filter as well, and, but it never comes from the government, right? I mean, when such things happen, then you resort to, you're talking about stakeholder processes, but the government never invites these stakeholder processes, or does it?
It does. You can't say that they don't invite, but I guess in this case, were they taken on board from the initial, when the first word came out on the streets, you kind of checked with ex-colleagues and we were like, no, we're not sure, we're still waiting. But remember, this is done for the first time on a large scale across Pakistan. But in the very recent past, you've had it done quite several times.
Yes, just on 14th August.
14th August is twice now. It's two consecutive 14th August setting Independence Day celebrations. They've had no operators. And it's a question of, security, national security. There's no other option but to do it. That's the process and that's how it's enforced. But if you allow better, assuming subset, help the process, building the capabilities, allow people to register. Like you said, operators had that excuse that quite a large number of our users are under 18. They do not have an ID card. What do we do? It's the father's ID card or the mother's ID card. But do they have one themselves? And yes, now Nadra has that, says that something like 70+ million people registered and who have CNICs, but your mobile operators claim there are 120 million SIMs. So, even if you double and everyone has a SIM, that's 160 million. But we all know that's not the case. And, so the Saab's experience with kidnappings as well, where sackloads of SIMs unregistered are found, when you're raiding.
Yeah, but this is such a wonderful technology where you can bust all these people. I've used it in 1995 in the sectarian killings at various Imam Baras and all that. And in 95, within 25 days, we solved the case. Okay? The famous Daniel Pearl case was solved by the use of SIM, okay? By use of this mobile technology, which would have been very difficult if you're talking about, other landlines or something like that, where the calls are not made, PCOs, wireless PCOs, umpteen amount of things have come into the field, which can really make it difficult. So for these terrorists who have nothing better to do, for them to find another solution or a system would be very, very easy. But instead of troubling the entire citizenry of Pakistan into these issues, I think we need to get a house in order. Okay? We need to organize things better and make sure that the SIMs that are issued are thoroughly verified, right, before they are allowed to operate. I think it's not difficult, it can be done. Even the SIM which is being sold across the counter, a photograph of the person who's buying it, okay, can also be stored.
Yeah.
The technology is there, the beauty is there. If you have a photograph of one person once, you can flush him out anywhere in the society. Okay? And I think we need to go into more such systems rather than trying to have some short-term measures which for the time being, yes, I'm sure. Some agencies must have intercepted some calls, but I think if you can intercept one such call, getting to the depth of it and finding out the root cause and the linkages is very easy. Once you're stuck in the net of this, there's no way you can escape a good investigator.
So then it's very possible to do these things again, because the first question always comes up: we don't have the kind of resources, we can't do it, it's not possible. Intel gathering, it's very difficult, and etc.
It's not difficult. The only problem with us is we are not sharing the information amongst all the intelligence agencies. Whoever has information tries to be the owner of it, okay, and tries to restrict it for his own use. Okay. Once you share it with everybody and they're all on board, the target is one. There's no way the target can escape.
So concerted effort.
Yes, it needs a centralized and a concerted effort, a lot of accountability and transparency, a lot of investments into securities, okay? And I'm sure all your partners in war on terrorism were willing to give you umpteen amount of money for security, okay? And you have drawn umpteen amount of money, you have invested a lot of it, okay? We invested it at the airports. Why didn't you find any more illegal immigrants going from here to there? Right? Like there used to go in abundance before, right? Because you have now a good immigration system which is thoroughly computerized, okay? From city to city, we have held the airlines responsible. If they put in anybody who goes in illegally, is going to be deported back, and there's going to be heavy fines and penalties on that. Unfortunately, we do not enforce the rule of law in our country. We compromise on that. Okay? So if penalties are imposed on mobile companies on the issuance of SIMs which are not verified, or NALA not putting in the proper data, or if things are properly in order and yet the SIM is gone to somebody wrong, hold the person accountable. Whoever has erred in this, or whoever has lapsed in doing his work with commitment and dedication.
This is one reservation, especially from the rights perspective, that comes into this argument, is the collection of data, the processes, etc. Because for a lot of reasons, there's a lot of political mishandling of these things. Now, about transparent processes, who has access, how can all this data be used, is it going to be in controlled hands? How would one work around this?
I mean, again, you will always have some broken eggs, and it doesn't mean because of that you don't have the process in place.
Yeah.
Just like SIMs are brilliant for the country, it's done wonders for so many businesses. You have the examples, credit card machines, vehicle tracking. So it's not just communication voices and emails and internet availability as well. So there's a full spectrum of services that are being run. But because one person is doing wrong, you don't shut down everything. So yes, of course they have processes in place. Information will be shared, and that's an argument that the SIM companies has had and tried to get their access to the data. That's a very different level of, and it can all be managed. There are several proposals. Who has access? Who authorizes it? You can put those in place, and then once you put a system in place, you can then hold people accountable. So long as that system doesn't exist, you can hold no one accountable. So if I say that this is the standard operating procedure, you require details of this SIM, you go follow this process, so-and-so signs it, so-and-so approves it, and then it's provided, whether it takes 5 minutes or 5 days, or whatever the time frame that's agreed upon mutually.
But it's documented.
It's documented. So you have verification. You have, okay, this person at this grade can provide approval for this kind of data. Right. Now it's on that person who's signing it, how he uses it, then he's held accountable. You can't hold the whole system accountable just because one person is, failed in his duties. If there are political use of it, likewise there you can say there's other uses and misuses of it. But you can't negate it and say that it did not happen because some people will misuse it. All systems get misused, anything can be misused. But what levels you can control, and the actions and penalties if the SIM is not registered, where does the penalty lie? If there's a law that states it's the responsibility of the operators to hold and get everyone registered, put that in writing, get them to sign that, make that part of their contracts, then you can go back to them and say, hey, hang on, this SIM does not have a data to it. Why? How can it be active? That company, whoever it is, will then have to give an answer, whether it's in whatever. And that's how it works.